Across cultures, there exists a quiet understanding that cats do not get chosen. They decide. They arrive on their own terms, stay for reasons they never explain, and leave when something unseen calls them elsewhere. Ancient Egypt understood this. Cats were never pets there. They were guardians, watchers, creatures believed to stand at the threshold between worlds, perceiving what human eyes could never catch, moving through realms of light and shadow without hesitation or fear. Carl Jung would have recognized something true in that ancient reverence. He believed our attractions are never accidents. The animals that visit our dreams, the creatures that appear in our art, even the ones we find ourselves inexplicably drawn to in waking life, carry meaning far beyond aesthetic preference. They are signals rising from the depths of the unconscious. Each one points toward a part of ourselves that remains unacknowledged, a truth we sense moving beneath the surface, but have not yet learned to speak aloud. And cats have always operated by different rules than other animals. They do not reflect us the way dogs do. They do not perform for approval or reshape themselves according to our moods. A cat exists entirely on its own terms. Independent, watchful, affectionate when it chooses, distant when solitude calls. It loves without losing itself in that love. It gives without becoming depleted. And this is precisely why humans cannot stop watching them, cannot stop being fascinated by their quiet autonomy. Because somewhere deep within us, we recognize that freedom. We hunger for it. We want to feel comfortable in our own skin, to stop explaining and justifying our existence, to hold our independence without guilt gnawing at the edges, to keep our mystery intact in a world that demands constant transparency. Here is what most people never pause to consider. The cat you feel pulled toward is not simply a preference. It has nothing to do with color or appearance or what might look aesthetically pleasing curled up on your furniture. That pull originates somewhere far deeper than conscious thought. The cat that catches your attention, that holds your gaze a moment longer than the others, is reflecting something back to you. It is showing you a part of yourself you have pushed aside, buried, or learned through painful experience to keep hidden. Jung called the face we show the world a persona. It is the version of us carefully constructed for survival, the acceptable self, the one that earns approval, sidesteps conflict, maintains safety. But behind that practiced mask lives what Jung named the shadow. These are the traits you were taught were too much, too strange, too dangerous to reveal, the parts of you that drew disapproval or punishment, so you learned to lock them away in darkness. This is where the cats become meaningful. The one you choose functions as a mirror. It points directly at what's been dwelling in your shadow, waiting patiently to be acknowledged. Before you now stand 5 cats. Each carries a distinct energy. Each holds a different message about what you have hidden and what you might be ready to reclaim. The orange tabby radiates warmth, expressive eyes, a coat like autumn leaves, an effortless likability that seems to brighten any space it enters without trying. The black cat moves differently, quiet, often misunderstood. It navigates comfortably through shadows and unseen spaces, entirely unbothered by the darkness that makes others nervous. The white Persian stands apart from both, composed, polished, almost untouchable in its pristine elegance, grace that appears to cost nothing, though anyone who looks closely knows better. The Siamese commands attention another way, sharp blue eyes that miss nothing, vocal opinions delivered without filter or apology, a creature that refuses silence, that insists on being heard. And the Calico presents something else entirely. A living paradox. Multiple colors sharing one body. Orange and black and white patched together in patterns that follow no predictable logic. Order and chaos woven into the same form. Now pause. Do not analyze this. Do not rank them according to logic or aesthetics. This is not a test with correct answers. Instead, ask a quieter question. Which one feels familiar in a way you cannot quite explain? Which one creates a sense of recognition, as though something inside you is seeing itself? Which one feels like home, even if you cannot articulate why? Take a breath. Let the answer arrive on its own rather than forcing it. The cat that pulls you forward is not communicating with your rational mind. It bypasses logic entirely. It speaks directly to your unconscious, the part of you that already knows the truth, even when your waking mind works hard to ignore it. What follows is not a simple personality label. It is a descent, a walk into the rooms of yourself you stopped visiting long ago. The traits you learned to dim because the world told you they were inconvenient, excessive, or fundamentally wrong. Hold on to your choice. Let us uncover what has been trying to show you. If you were drawn to the orange tabby, you chose the energy of warmth itself, the easy presence, the one that softens tension in any room simply by existing within it. Orange tabbies are famously open. They approach rather than hide. They play without self-consciousness. They carry a kind of natural joy, as though delight is their default state of being. People remember them long after other cats fade from memory. If this is your cat, it reveals something important about your nature. You bring ease into spaces filled with tension. You remind others how to breathe when they have forgotten. Laughter tends to follow you, not because you force it or perform it, but because it arises naturally in your presence. You possess an instinct for finding light, even when circumstances grow heavy, even when others have surrendered to darkness. People feel safe near you, truly seen by you. When you enter a room, something shifts in the atmosphere. Shoulders lower. Genuine smiles surface. Life feels more bearable, not because problems vanish, but because you remind others that joy remains possible, that it is still permitted. But there is a deeper layer here that requires examination. This is not only about joy. It is about the sacred function of play. Jung explored archetypes extensively, those deep patterns living within the collective human psyche. The one you carry is a trickster, not the liar or manipulator that the name might suggest. The trickster is a truth-teller in disguise, the jester who uses laughter to say what cannot be said directly, the one who slips wisdom past offenses through humor. You understand something most people miss entirely. Humor is not avoidance. It is medicine. It is resistance. It is a way of declaring that darkness does not get the final word, even when darkness seems to have claimed everything else. But here is the part you rarely allow others to see. You wear that joy like armor. Your playfulness serves as protection, because beneath all that warmth runs a depth of pain you learned early to keep private. Somewhere in your history, you received a message that your sadness made people uncomfortable, that your tears were inconvenient, that your heaviness was too much for others to carry. So you adapted. You became the cheerful one, the uncomplicated one, the person who lifts the energy of any gathering rather than weighing it down. You learned, through countless small moments of rejection, that your worth depended on making others feel better, even when that meant carrying your own grief in complete solitude. This is your shadow. Jung was unambiguous about this pattern. What we refuse to face, we are condemned to carry indefinitely. Wholeness only becomes possible when light and depth are granted permission to exist together. When joy is allowed to have a basement, you are not simply bright. You contain depths most people never glimpse. You are not only playful, you are thoughtful, sensitive, capable of profound perception. The world does not need a diminished version of you, performing happiness on command. It needs a complete truth of who you are. Orange tabby souls are exhausted in ways others rarely notice, tired of performing contentment that is not always felt, tired of serving as everyone's source of sunshine, when sometimes all you want is permission to be clouds and rain, tired of the unspoken rule that you must remain okay so that everyone else can stay comfortable. Hear this clearly. Your pain does not make you more difficult to love. It makes you human. Your sadness is not a burden you impose on others. Your tears do not cancel out your capacity for light. They exist alongside it. They are part of the same complete picture. You are allowed to be human, to experience difficult days openly, to stop smiling when smiling costs too much. The people who genuinely matter will not vanish when you stop entertaining them. They will draw closer. Even the orange tabby does not play without end. It rests. It withdraws into quiet corners. It sits in stillness, doing nothing at all, expecting nothing of itself. That stillness is not failure. It is not weakness. It is part of the full truth you are finally allowed to claim. You are permitted to step out of character, to set the mask aside, To stop being the one everyone relies on for lightness, and simply be a human being who holds joy and sorrow, laughter and tears, light and shadow in the same trembling hands. If you chose the orange tabby, understand this. Yes, you bring light into the world, but you were never meant to be a torch that burns itself into nothing. You are meant to receive warmth as well as give it, to allow others to show up for you without feeling guilty, to stop measuring your worth by how successfully you elevate everyone else's mood. Your value is not transactional. You do not earn love by entertaining. You do not lose it by falling silent. You matter because you exist. That is a complete truth. Everything else is negotiation you no longer need to engage in. Now, if your soul was drawn to the black cat, wrapped in midnight with eyes that hold ancient knowing, then you chose the most misunderstood presence of all five. Black cats have always carried contradictory meanings across human history, feared as dark omens, revered as powerful guardians, associated with witches, outcasts, and those who walk paths most people avoid. They become screens onto which others project their own unexamined fears, because darkness makes humans profoundly uneasy. But anyone who has actually shared life with a black cat knows the deeper truth. They are fiercely loyal, perceptive beyond what seems possible, intensely aware of everything happening around them. They do not give themselves freely to just anyone. They choose carefully. And once that choice is made, the bond reaches depths that other connections never touch. If this is your cat, it speaks volumes about who you are. You've been misread your entire life, judged, sometimes feared, not because you did anything wrong, but because your depth unsettles people who are not prepared to encounter it. You carry an intensity most do not know how to hold, a presence that refuses to fit neatly into comfortable categories. Jung devoted much of his life's work to understanding the shadow. Black cat souls live in close proximity to that territory, not because you are broken or dangerous, but because you understand something essential that others avoid knowing. Wholeness is never achieved through relentless positivity. It requires integration of everything, including what we fear most in ourselves. You do not flinch away from difficult emotions. You do not turn from uncomfortable truths. You can sit with grief, loss, uncertainty, and pain without needing to escape into distraction or denial. While others build elaborate structures to avoid the dark, you enter it calmly, not to be consumed by it, to understand it, to learn what it has to teach. That capacity is genuinely rare. You do not merely tolerate the shadowed aspects of existence. You respect them. You understand they belong to life as completely as light does, that nothing real can exist without them. This is why people feel simultaneously pulled toward you and unsettled by your presence. They sense something they cannot name, that you perceive what goes unsaid, that you see past the masks they wear so carefully, that you recognize their shadows even when they have invested years in pretending those shadows do not exist. That kind of perception makes people nervous. Most spend their entire lives in flight from themselves, from grief they never processed, from fears they refuse to name, from truths too uncomfortable for polite conversation. And you, without even trying, become a mirror. You reflect back what they're working so desperately to avoid. But here is what even you may not fully acknowledge. You are lonely in ways that go beyond circumstance, not situationally isolated, but existentially alone. Not because people are absent. Sometimes many surround you, but because living at depth while the rest of the world schemes along the surface creates a particular kind of isolation. You speak a language few have learned. You perceive layers others refuse to acknowledge exist. Finding someone capable of meeting you in those depths feels rare enough to seem almost impossible. This is your shadow. Somewhere along the way, you began to believe your depth was a problem rather than a gift, that your intensity drives people away, that being fully seen will always conclude in rejection. So you learn to hold back, to offer carefully selected fragments instead of your complete self, to protect yourself by remaining partially hidden even in your closest relationships. But Jung discovered something essential in his explorations of the psyche. The shadow is never the enemy. It is always the doorway. The very qualities you have tried to bury hold your greatest power. Your depth is not a defect requiring correction. It is perception refined to unusual precision. Your sensitivity is not weakness to be overcome. It is intelligence of a kind most people cannot access. Your comfort with the full spectrum of human experience is not common. It is sacred. Black cat souls function as guides for others. You demonstrate that darkness need not be feared. That shadow is not synonymous with evil. That wholeness never requires perfection. That mystery does not equal danger. But before you can embody that truth outwardly, you must claim it inwardly. You are not too much for this world, not too intense for human connection, not too deep for love to find you. You are precisely calibrated for the life you are meant to live. Every quality you have tried to suppress prepared you for exactly this. And yes, there are others searching for exactly what you offer. People who will not flee from their own darkness when they encounter yours. People who can sit comfortably in shadow without needing to rush toward artificial light. People who understand that genuine intimacy only becomes possible when nothing remains hidden. They exist. When you stop shrinking yourself to avoid frightening others, that is when they recognize you. If you chose the black cat, understand this clearly. You are someone who moves between worlds that others pretend do not connect. You know that light only exists because darkness defines it. You know that some of the most profound truths grow in soil where others are afraid to dig. The world may hesitate around you. It may fear what you represent. And that is precisely why it needs what you carry. Now, if your soul was drawn to the white Persian, with fur like clouds drifting across an empty sky and eyes that seem carved from precious stones, you chose the archetype of refinement itself. White Persians do not thrive through instinct and chaos. Their beauty is never accidental. It is intentional, cultivated, protected through constant effort. Their coats demand regular care that most cats never require. Their environments must remain calm, clean, ordered. They are not built for dust and disorder. They position themselves in windows like living sculptures, aware of their own elegance. If this is your cat, it reveals something unmistakable about you. You have constructed a life of refinement through sustained effort, balance, aesthetics, structure. People perceive you as composed, tasteful, graceful in ways that seem natural. You move through the world carefully. You speak with deliberation. Your life appears polished from every external angle. Your home, your appearance, your choices. None of that happened through luck. You work for every detail. Jung called this constructed self the persona, the face we present to the world, the version of ourselves shaped specifically to be admired, respected, loved. White Persian souls understand a persona more intimately than most. You know how to curate every element of your external existence, how to hold yourself together under pressure, how to appear effortless even when everything internal feels like chaos. Here is what you rarely admit even to yourself. You are exhausted beyond what sleep can repair, not the ordinary tiredness that rest resolves, the kind that settles deep into bones and stays there, takes up residence. Because beauty of this caliber demands constant maintenance. Grace requires vigilant control. The mask can never be allowed to slip. You cannot let anyone perceive the disorder beneath the polished surface. You cannot reveal how much energy every day costs you, making it all look natural. This is your shadow. Behind the elegance lives someone worn down by endless upkeep. Someone tired of being admired from a distance, but never truly known up close. Someone who aches to be seen without the armor, without the careful presentation, without the constant performance of having everything together. But fear lives there as well. A fear that if the image cracks, love will disappear with it. That your worth is measured entirely by how well you maintain the beautiful illusion. That if people glimpse the messy, imperfect, barely holding together version of you, their admiration will transform into disappointment. Jung was clear about this danger. The persona is useful, even necessary for navigating social reality. But it is never the self. It is clothing, not skin. And when we mistake the mask for the soul wearing it, we lose access to who we actually are. You are not the image you maintain. You are not the life you curate so carefully. You are not your elegance or your aesthetic or your refinement. You are a human being, tired, imperfect, real in ways the mask never captures. That version of you is not something shameful to conceal. It is the part that deserves love most directly, not despite its flaws, but including them completely. White Persian souls do not need more discipline or higher standards. They need permission. Permission to rest without feeling guilty about what is not getting done. Permission to stop holding everything together and allow some pieces to fall. Permission to let the house grow messy, the hair go undone, the image crack, and reveal what lives beneath. Because you are not a display piece existing for others to admire. You are not here to be appreciated from a safe distance. You are here to be known. And being genuinely known requires being genuinely seen. All of you, not merely the parts you have polished for presentation. If you chose the White Persian, understand this. You have brought beauty into a world that often lacks it. You understand grace and refinement and the quiet power of order. But you are not obligated to be beautiful at every moment. You are permitted to be tired without hiding it. You are allowed to fall apart, sometimes without calling it failure. You are allowed to remove the mask and simply rest. The people who truly love you will not feel disappointed when you do. They will feel closer to you than ever before, because you finally trusted them with something real. Now, if your soul was drawn to the Siamese with those sharp blue eyes and a voice that absolutely refuses to be ignored, then you chose a true speaker. Siamese cats do not suffer quietly. They announce their needs without apology. They vocalize when something feels wrong. They never wait for permission to make themselves known. They insist on presence. If this is your cat, you carry that identical energy within you. You speak plainly when others choose careful evasion. You say what everyone in the room is thinking, but refuses to admit. You challenge injustice directly rather than hoping it will resolve itself. You do not hide behind politeness when honesty is what the moment requires. You refuse to play subtle games or soften truths for the sake of maintaining false peace. That directness makes you powerful. It also makes certain people profoundly uncomfortable. Jung described an energy he called the animus, understood not as gender but as a force of assertion, direct, truth-seeking, unwilling to be dismissed. Siamese souls carry this quality strongly. You do not apologize for occupying space. You do not diminish yourself so that others can feel more significant. When you speak, you expect to be heard because you have something worth hearing. But here is the weight you have carried for years, perhaps since childhood. You have been told repeatedly, through direct statements and indirect signals, that you are too much, too loud, too opinionated, too intense in your responses, too honest for comfort. Over time, those messages accumulated. A quiet internal voice formed, instructing you to soften, to quiet down, to become more agreeable, more palatable, less threatening to those around you. That voice represents your shadow. It is the internalized pressure to dilute yourself so that others can remain comfortable in your presence. And it has been lying to you. That voice insists your truth is merely aggression, that your clarity is just rudeness dressed up, that your voice creates noise rather than value. Siamese souls often grow up trapped between two impossible choices: speak honestly and risk rejection, or remain silent and earn acceptance. Both options wound in different ways. Being rejected for who you truly are cuts deep into the core, but silencing yourself just to belong is a slow betrayal of your own soul, equally painful, just spread over more time. So you exist in constant tension. You speak because something in you cannot remain silent, and then guilt floods in afterward. You name truth that others avoid, and then you wonder if staying quiet would have been wiser. You take up space as yourself, and then you apologize for your own existence. Eventually, your voice begins to feel like a burden you carry rather than the gift it actually is. Jung observed something essential here. The traits we are trained to suppress often turn out to be exactly what the world is starving for. Your voice is needed. We live in a culture that hides behind politeness until communication means nothing, where truth gets softened and qualified until its edges disappear completely, where discomfort is treated as equivalent to genuine harm, where those who might speak truth are trained instead to be agreeable, pleasant, non-threatening. Then you arrive, speaking with clarity, naming what others pretend not to see, refusing to participate in collective denial. Of course it unsettles people. but discomfort is not damage. Sometimes truth matters more than comfort. Sometimes the room needs what you carry more than it needs peace. Siamese souls are truth bearers. You perceive what is wrong, and you name it out loud. You insist on accountability when others prefer to let failures slide. You refuse to let injustice hide behind pleasant words and careful smiles. That gift exacts a cost. Loneliness of a particular kind. Because not everyone desires honesty. Messengers throughout history have been punished for delivering unwelcome news. But remember this when the cost feels too high. Your voice is not the problem. The world's resistance to hearing truth is. You are not too much. You are exactly enough. The right people, those who value honesty over easy comfort and truth over pleasant lies, will never ask you to soften into something smaller. They will feel grateful that you spoke at all. If you chose the Siamese, you are someone who refuses to disappear into the background. You speak even when your voice shakes with fear. You tell truth even when you know it will cost you something. The world needs exactly that, especially in moments when it demands your silence most insistently. Now, if your soul was drawn to the calico, splashed with orange and black and white in patterns that follow no predictable logic, you chose complexity itself. Calicos resist simplification at every level. Genetically rare, their coloring results from a particular chromosomal pattern that makes them almost always female. They are known for contradiction in temperament, fiercely independent one moment, then deeply affectionate the next, playful then contemplative, soft and fierce, inhabiting the same small body. They are never just one thing. They contain many. If this is your cat, it means you hold multitudes within yourself. People have always struggled to define you. They attempt to pin labels on you, and you slip away from everyone. Just when they believe they finally understand who you are, you reveal another layer they never suspected existed. You are strong and gentle simultaneously, independent and deeply connected to others, serious and playful, depending on what the moment calls forth, light and shadow dwelling side by side within you. Jung wrote extensively about what he called the self, distinguished carefully from both ego and persona. The self represents totality, conscious and unconscious integrated, what he called masculine and feminine energies balanced, order and chaos woven together into one functional whole. Calico souls are living symbols of that kind of integration. You represent the meeting point of apparent opposites. You serve as proof that contradiction is not a flaw in design, but rather a form of dynamic balance. Just by existing as you are, you demonstrate that a person does not need to be reduced to one simple thing in order to be real and coherent. But here is what you carry in silence. Sometimes you genuinely do not know which version of yourself is the real one. So many different moods move through you. So many instincts arise that seem to contradict each other. So many internal voices speak at once. You begin to wonder whether there is a stable center at all, or whether you are merely a collection of contradictions without any solid core holding them together. This is your shadow. The fear that your complexity represents confusion rather than capacity, that your multiple sides signal instability rather than richness, that you are not integrated, just scattered into pieces that never quite cohere. So you attempt to simplify yourself for others, to become consistent, predictable, easier for people to understand and categorize. And the effort exhausts you because you are trying to force yourself into one single color when your actual nature requires three. Calico souls face frequent misunderstanding. People expect continuity from others, the same tone every day, the same energy every interaction, the same predictable version showing up reliably. They grow unsettled when you shift, when new facets emerge, when a different aspect of you steps forward unexpectedly. So you learn to adapt strategically. You display strength in contexts where strength wins approval, softness in environments where softness feels safe. You become a kind of mirror, a chameleon, offering pieces of yourself rather than the overwhelming whole. Jung was explicit about this principle. Wholeness never arrives through reduction. It only comes through integration of everything that exists within you. You do not have to choose between strong and gentle. You do not have to choose between independent and deeply connected. You do not need to flatten your complexity into something simple just to be understood by others. You can be genuinely complex and still be completely whole. The calico cat never apologizes for its patches. It never attempts to become one solid color for the sake of visual simplicity. It holds orange and black and white together in the same body without conflict, and that is exactly what makes it striking to behold. You are the same. Your contradictions do not cancel each other out. They complete you. Your multiple sides are not evidence of fragmentation requiring repair. They are evidence of unusual capacity. Calico souls serve as living reminders that humans were never designed to fit neatly into narrow boxes, that containing multitudes is natural rather than pathological, that we can be many things simultaneously and still remain grounded, coherent, real, and whole. But the work begins with a shift in belief. You must trust that your complexity is not something requiring correction. It is something to honor. Stop trying to become more consistent, more predictable, more easily digestible for others. That pressure does not originate from truth about who you should be. It comes from external demands. From living in a world that prefers simple categories and clean labels over the beautiful mess of actual human beings. Some people will never understand you, no matter how clearly you explain yourself. They require everything and everyone to fit into clear boxes with simple labels. That is acceptable. Those people were never meant to be your people. Their confusion is not your failure. Your people are different. They can hold complexity without needing to resolve into something simpler. They can sit with contradiction comfortably without demanding you choose one side. They see all your colors at once and never ask you to select just one. They appreciate the whole picture because they understand that every part connects to every other part. If you chose the calico, this is who you are, someone who contains multitudes, someone who lives in the space of both rather than the constraint of either or, someone who proves through daily existence that integration never means becoming one simple thing. It means honoring everything you contain. The world needs you for exactly that reason. You show the rest of us that we do not have to shrink ourselves to be understood, that we can be vast and layered and contradictory and still remain whole. Now step back from the individual portraits and observe the complete picture. 5 cats, 5 distinct energies, 5 different truths about what you carry within you and what you have learned to hide from yourself and others. If you chose the orange tabby, you embody warmth and light. But beneath your accessible joy lives genuine pain you learn to conceal. Your work involves learning that love does not require constant performance, that you are allowed to stop shining sometimes. If you chose the black cat, you carry depth and mystery, walking comfortably in territories others avoid entirely. Your work is learning to trust that your intensity is not excessive. It is precisely calibrated for those willing to meet you in the depths. If you chose the white Persian, you represent grace and cultivated beauty. Beneath that polished surface lives exhaustion from endless maintenance of the image. Your work is recognizing that you remain worthy of love even without the polish, even when you are messy and tired and falling apart. If you chose the Siamese, you embody voice and uncompromising truth. You speak when silence would feel safer to everyone. Your work is fully owning that your directness is not a character flaw. It is a gift this world desperately requires, especially when the world resists hearing it. If you chose the calico, you are complexity refusing to be simplified. Many colors, one soul containing them all. Your work is learning to trust that your contradictions are not symptoms of confusion. They are their own form of beauty. Jung devoted his life to understanding that becoming whole requires facing what we have hidden, integrating the shadow, welcoming back the parts of ourselves we were trained to suppress because they did not fit comfortably into what others expected. The cat you chose did not reveal something foreign to you. It reflected what was already present within, what you've been carrying quietly, often in isolation. What you were told was wrong about you. It was never wrong. It was always you. You deserve to live as a complete truth of who you are, not only the parts that make others comfortable, not only the aspects that are easy for people to love, everything, the light alongside the shadow, the accepted and the rejected together, the mask and the face beneath it, both acknowledged. All of it belongs to you. Cats never apologize for being exactly what they are. They do not attempt to perform like dogs in order to earn love. They do not reshape themselves to become easier, nicer, or more acceptable to human preferences. They exist fully, cleanly, without negotiating their essential nature. That is the teaching they offer you. You do not have earned the right to occupy space in this world. You do not have to dilute your essence to deserve love. You do not have to make yourself smaller so that others can feel more comfortable around you. You are permitted to simply be, to be full of yourself in the deepest and truest sense, whole, present, completely embodied, and to trust that the right people will recognize themselves in that fullness when they encounter it. They will not love you despite who you truly are. They will love you precisely because of it, because you showed them what wholeness looks like, because you gave them permission to pursue their own. So honor the cat you chose. Sit with the recognition it sparked. Thank it silently for the mirror it held up, for showing you what you were finally ready to see about yourself. Then the genuine work begins. The ongoing practice of integration, the daily choice of self-acceptance, the patient labor of becoming whole. You were never meant to live a half-life, offering the world only your acceptable parts while your full truth remains locked away. You were never designed to hide your brightest qualities or your deepest truths. You were meant to be seen. All of you, the complete picture. Nothing edited out for the comfort of others. Which cat chose you? Did it make contact with something you have been carrying in silence? Did it give language to something you have felt moving within you, but never found words to name? Think about what you might be ready to stop hiding, what you might finally be willing to bring out of shadow into the light of acknowledgement, because choosing to truly see yourself, shadow and all, requires courage that most people never develop. If you have made it through this journey of recognition, you have already demonstrated that you possess it. You are not one thing. You never were. You are layered and complex and worthy of being witnessed in your entirety. The cat you chose did not judge what it reflected. It simply showed you what was there, waiting. Now comes the invitation to bring what you have been hiding into full light, not because the shadow is wrong or shameful, but because genuine wholeness demands that everything be included, nothing exiled, nothing denied, light and dark, mask and truth beneath. All of you, you deserve that kind of wholeness. You always have. And the world deserves to finally meet the complete and real you.